Hello, Welsh Forest Focus. As we enter the final 2 days of the transfer window in Nottingham Forest, poised to make their first edition in January, we'll discuss that and delve into the Arsenal game in much more depth in the company of, first of all, Reds legend Garry Birtles. Morning, Gary. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good to have you with us as ever. Second guest today is Greg Mitchell. Greg, I didn't know you were on nights today. You're a hero for turning out. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just excited to hear about Temps' background there.
Yes, for iTunes listeners, not viewers, Temps is high up in Trent Bridge with a lovely view of the city ground behind him from the restaurant there. Free plug for your lovely restaurant, Temps. How are you this morning?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. I mean, look, Greg Mitchell comes on here with his fancy little sign and everything else. I can't compete with Gary's shirts, but yeah, I've got a better view than most, so I thought I'd treat you a bit this morning.
Very good of you. Very good. Appreciate it very much. What did you make of the game overall, Temps, to kick us off last night?
So I read Henry Winter in the Times this morning. I just can't help but agree with what he said. Why did we wait until 72 minutes before we got going? I think that there was so much positivity came from the attacking intent we showed against Newcastle and Man United. I thought that was going to be the hallmark of how Nuno was going to take on the so-called bigger sides, but we didn't see it. We were passive. We were deep and compact again. We struggled to retain the ball. And it was a really, really frustrating first half. And then we came to life after their goals. Taiwo came on, was an immediate threat and changed the manner in which we went about things. But despite those late chances, it proved to be too little too late. And I think if the Forest lot are sat there doing their analysis now, the question has to be asked, why didn't we show that attacking intent from the off?
What did you make of the setup then, Gary? It was very Steve Cooper-esque, which I didn't mind because it had worked against Arsenal a year ago, but it wasn't what we'd seen from Nuno thus far. Was it too defensive for you?
Perspective a little bit. Arsenal, for me, were there for the taking on what we saw in that first half. Yes, they had a lot of possession, but they hardly had a shot. They didn't have an out-and-out striker who was going to hurt us. And we were passive, like Temp said. We paid them too much respect. I felt sorry for Chris Wood. He looked like he was a central midfield player for that first half because he was dropping that deep. And when we got the ball back, there was no outlet. There was nothing there because he was dropping too deep. And regarding Taiwo and Alanga, why not start them? Brian Clough always used to say to us, if you've been injured and you were coming back in the team, give me as long as you can get, give me an hour. I'll be delighted. I'll carry you off myself. Had those two started, they would have been the same as everybody else. But you saw how rusty Taiwo was when he came on. His touch let him down a little bit, which is expected. Start them off with everybody else. You might go 2-0 up instead of coming on when you're 2-0 down. It's back to front logic for me. We looked a threat when those two came on. We looked a different team and we got one back. And perhaps if those two had started, we might not have won. But I think we would.
I suppose I was saying to you earlier, I guess it's the world of sports science and the way the game is now that they'll give players 30 minutes at the end rather than 60 minutes at the start. It's the modern game. Let me just say a few quick good mornings before I throw it to Greg. Morning to Paul, Simon, Mickey, Fraser, Sally, Phil, Dave, Derek, etc., etc. Good to have you all with us. So soon after we
got Paul Simon listening to us.
We've got listeners all around the world, haven't we?
Goodness me.
Yeah. Is he still alive? Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Yeah, of course he is.
Sorry. Anyway, good to have people with us so soon after we did one of these last night. What do you make of it in the ground then, Greg? I'll ask you about the atmosphere in general, but was it a tough watch in the first half, or were people kind of appreciating what we were trying to do?
Do you know when the team came out and you saw the bench and the attacking threat on the bench? I thought we're going to try and keep this so tight for the first 60, 70 minutes and then go for it. And I kind of thought, it did almost pay off, didn't it? I know I'm going to get a load of stick for this now, but we were so close to getting that equaliser at the end, and it was such a boring, tedious watch, that first half and the low block and everything that frustrated us or frustrated some about, how Cooper used to set up against these big teams. But you go all out against Arsenal in the first half, they could have got 4 or 5. So I do kind of understand where he was coming from. But we just did it for too long, as proven when we did try and go for it. And that was the issue, wasn't it? That Arsenal probably weren't as good a side as we expected them to be, and we gave them too much respect. The atmosphere-wise it was disappointing. It didn't feel like a big game coming into it. I think I said it on Twitter that it felt like we've kind of got used to these games already. We're less than 2 seasons into the Premier League after 20 odd years, and it felt like Arsenal was almost just another game last night. And I think that's sad. I think we have to like kind of remember where we've come from, where we are at the minute, and just how special these nights can be, because it was flat. And I know the players didn't really give us that inspiration to get us going until quite close to the end. But I think we as fans, maybe Forza, I don't know, we need to think of something to do to spark this famous atmosphere back to life, because it wasn't there last night.
Do you think the magic's gone a bit? Because I look at, like, we'll talk about Luton, but I look at Luton and they feel like us of last season, like there's a real buzz about a whole football club. And it doesn't feel quite that way with Forest this season for various reasons. You know, Cooper's gone and Nuno's coming in, done well. Like you say, second season, it feels like, I don't know, just has the spark gone a little bit this season, do you think?
I think we wrongfully feel just a bit safe. You know, we've got this points deduction potentially coming. We need to fight for our lives. And I think we've all kind of got into this, we're this not mid-table Premier League team, but, you know, safe Premier League team, when we're not, we just don't know what's coming around the corner. And I think it might help us knowing what's coming around the corner, so we can really, you know, batten down the hatches and start fighting. Because at the minute, I think everyone's in a little bit of limbo, and, you know, it's just, there's something not there, isn't there? And we need to figure that out quite quickly.
Can I just say something regarding Luton? Remember the navigation? We did that podcast, and people said, "Oh, Luton's are going to go down. They're a certainty." And I said, "Don't believe that at all. I don't think Luton will go down." And look at what they're doing now. You know, they're playing to their strengths, and I think that's the important thing. I mean, that result last night, 2-0 up in 5 minutes, was staggering, and what the job he's doing there is staggering. And, you know, nobody wants to go to Luton and play there. I mean, this is Brighton they beat 4-0, you know, have been playing well. So, you know, they've gone above Everton now. They're a point behind us with a game in hand. We've got to be fearful, believe me.
We'll come back to that, I think. We'll sticking on the game, Temps. How much of it is down to that first goal? Turner's getting so much stick on Twitter, and I've said my piece about Turner. I don't think he's good enough, and we have to sign someone. But is it all on that first goal? And then I'll ask Garry just to give us some analysis on whether it was all Turner. But what's your take on it, Temps?
Well, me and Greg have come at it from different angles there, haven't we? Me calling for a bit more attacking intent first half, and Greg rightly pointing out that if we are trying to be solid for 70 minutes and we don't concede that goal, you probably do applaud the game plan. But it was just weak, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not going to bag Turner either. Everyone's heard what we've all said. He's as good as we've got, so he's getting the shirt, but he's not good enough to get to where we want to be. So I do fully expect us to sign a keeper before the window slams shut, because it is that stark. That position is absolutely vital. It was an identikit goal to the one that Brennan Johnson scored against Leicester in the Cup. And we were kind of laughing at Danny Ward at that point, weren't we? But you can't do that. You can't stand on your near stick when there's one way to score by opening your legs, and then a player of Jesus's quality comes and finds that gap. So, yeah, if we don't concede at that point in what was for me a goalkeeping error, then I'm with Greg. We introduce the subs, we make positive change. We know we've got some gas from Alanga from the bench, and we go with it. Sensible game plan, but if a team is going to consistently concede goals through such avoidable errors, and you could argue the Montiel clearance was even worse than that one, then you need to score. If we're going to be a side that needs to scrap and win 3-2, 2-1, just kind of accepting that we're going to concede, then you have to change the manner in which you commence a game. So yeah, disappointing for me. But I hope that explains the difference between where I'm coming from in my analysis and what Greg said earlier on.
We can't win 3-2 games. We've played 10 in the last 2 seasons in the league and lost all 10. You know, that tells a story that, you know, you've got to start winning some of those. And I got a text through when that first goal went in and said a 10-year-old would have saved that. So, and I think that summed it up a little bit. And then, you know, the two Montiel, you know, he panicked twice, not once, but twice, and just gave them that second goal. It's just not acceptable. You know, Matt, you said what we're talking about today, avoidable goals again. I've mentioned this all. We're not learning our lessons. You know, you have to start learning your lessons. You can't keep making excuses for rubbish like that, giving goals away. It's amateurish. You know, just if you're going to clear it, not just kick it along the floor and, you know, give it back to them. It's just not acceptable at that level. It really isn't.
Going back to the first goal as well, Gary, we have to look at obviously Turner, but also switching off from the throw in as well. I mean, it's a bit of a horror show after doing good defensive work for so long.
It's just switched off. You know, at this level, any level, you can't. But at this level, if you do that, you're going to get punished by the best teams in the league. You might get away with it, you know, if you play, no disrespect to, you know, the bottom teams, but, you know, you might just get away with it. But, I mean, come on. It's the Premier League, you know, your quality players, and you switch off and that happens from a throw-in. The whole, you know, part of that, you know, play was just poor all round. But
there's a Nico Williams error in there as well, Gary. So he was trying to take on two men to hook his clearance down the line, spews it out of play, chucks himself on the floor. It wasn't a foul, he wasn't injured, but having that 5-6 seconds on the deck just allowed Arsenal to exploit the space, exploit the overlap, and before you know it, Jesus is through and did what he did. But again, that's that 1% of that personal choice, a bad decision, and it just left us completely overran on Arsenal's left side. And with a team of that quality, that they're going to take a chance at some point. So yeah, Nico needs to stay on his feet there. But, made a mistake, crack on, don't compound it.
Was it, you know, at fault? But you know, you're talking again. It's just so annoying that we keep talking about this. We should be talking about different things, but it's the avoidable goal thing again, isn't it? And Montiel is defending. I don't get him at all. You know, he's a World Cup winner. And he's defended 2 yards deeper than the other three at the back. I was level with him, you know, in the first half. I'm thinking, you're playing everybody on side here. Why are you 3 yards, you know, 2 yards behind? I played centre half, and I always, you know, with Paul Futcher, and I played with Des Walker, you know, and people like that. And we always said, right, you've got to keep this line straight. If you've got a dog leg and one of you is dropping 2 yards back, then you're in trouble, because, you know, quality players see that and they play on it. Luckily, you know, in the first half, we didn't get punished for it. But, yeah, it's just strange. And then he brought Nico Williams off and kept Montiel on. I thought it'd be the other way around. He might bring Montiel off and put Nico Williams, you know, a fullback. But, you know, these are decisions that, you know, managers make, and, you know, they always have a reason for them.
What's your take on Montiel, Greg? Because he was at fault for the second goal massively as well. But then he did a lot of good work heading balls out of the near post, let me play devil's advocate, and he was generally okay. But he can't have so many hands in so many goals, can he, I suppose?
No, there are too many critical errors. But he's a classic modern attacking defender as such, isn't he? I mean, they don't always have to be that way, but I'm sure we're going to have to look at more strengthening in that area. And I think we are, aren't we? It was, you know, the first goal, though, I mean, was it a foul before the throw-in? I haven't managed to watch it all back yet. It was just like,
I don't think so. Really
frustrating either way, and you just I don't know. It was just a shocker throughout, wasn't it? You know, mistakes leading to goals. That's the big issue. And like I said previously, we're just going to microanalyze these players that make the mistakes. Turner, now it's Montiel, and you know, the pressure piles on them, and it's how they handle it now, because they are going to have to play unless we sign this keeper in the next 2 days. It'll be Turner starting against Bournemouth, and he may well do anyway, even if we do get someone in. So, you know, piling on them isn't helping, but also they've just got to have games where they're just not making these silly mistakes.
You're right not to say pile on, but my next question is piling on, I guess, really, Temps. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter saying if we don't sign a goalkeeper, we're getting relegated. It's that bad. We've let in 10 more goals than we should have let in statistically now. Is it that bad, do you think?
Yeah, it is. It's for me, it's the primary position that we need to address in this window. We thought 2 months ago it might be me striker. We talked about a pile of centre mids and centre halves in a numeric sense. We're now in a position where I think we've got 5 keepers on the books. We had 2 keepers on the bench yesterday in Hennessy and Vlachodimos. I'm not sure if that's Nuno's way of making a point that we're overloaded with keepers and none of them are at the level that he wants them to be at. Turner is as good as we've got. I'm sorry to say that. There's no benefit in my view now, while the personnel we have in rotating between him and the Greek. So we have to address it through recruitment. What's the challenge? It's FFP. It's the wedge that they're on. It's trying to get them out of the door when they're not in any particular form, and the level at which they might want to play, which for me is probably, top half of the Championship, MLS or European League, is perhaps not willing to pay what would be required to get that deal done. So we've heard the whispers. We've heard about 2 or 3 names of keepers that Nuno might be targeting. Former keeper himself, he knows he's got to do it, and we're doing all he can in the next 24 hours to make a change, because I don't think it's a form thing, is it? There's a lack of certain facets in his game. Usually his hands are very dependable. Bit of positioning, the kicking, and the frequency of these mistakes means that, unfortunately, at this moment in time, all fans feel we need an upgrade in that position.
Did you just boot him out? I was enjoying watching.
Sorry about that. Somebody rang me and it just turned everything off. I apologise for that.
You don't boot Garry Birtles out of the studio.
I saw your hands move towards something, and then he went. So I'm not going to.
Yeah, I had to switch off and switch back on again. People, why did you do that when people ring you that you can't get straight back in there? You just everything went silent.
I don't know.
Matt needs to buy you a laptop.
Yeah, possibly.
I'd love to.
What's one of them, by the way?
What about goalkeepers then, Gary? I'll throw the same question to you. If we don't sign someone, is that terminal or not?
Well, yeah, we've spoke about this before. How lucky I was to play with the great goalkeepers I did. It's so important as a defender when you've got somebody behind you who's particularly good. And all through my career, I was very fortunate. Every club I played with, that I had those sort of goalkeepers. I think Turner, his handling last night. He comes out and he takes the pressure off a little bit, but it's those little, those errors that creep in, more or less every game. You've got to get your goalkeeper right. The spine of the team. We talk about it all the time. Centre halves, goalkeeper, centre mid, striker. And then you build around that. But if you've got no confidence in your goalkeeper, then it's not a good place to be as a defender.
Have you ever been in a situation in your career? I can't remember who I was talking to. Oh, Michael Dawson, when he was on here, saying about confidence, and there was a time in his career where he felt like he couldn't make a 5-yard pass. And I don't know, have you ever had that? And do you think that could be an out for Turner, or is he just not up to the standard, sadly?
No, I never was in that position, no matter where I was. Even at Man United, I was still, trying everything I possibly could to get things right. When as a striker you're not scoring, you tend to maybe hang back a little bit, and that was one thing I possibly did more than I should have done at United, being a little bit afraid to get in there when I should have done, and I regret that. But it can take every individual is different, and it can just totally drain your confidence, I'm sure. I was lucky. I kept going. I got good teammates at Man United. They believed in me. And finally, once I scored the goal, everything changed a little bit. But, it can, as an individual, just destroy you, because the pressure is that intense at that level that, you're desperate to do well. And that can be sometimes the worst thing you can do. You're trying too hard and you make mistakes because you're overly trying, instead of doing your normal things that you would do if things were going all right.
Yeah, I do it like somewhat. Liam, I think in the comments, said it's a pylon to Turner. I don't want it to be, because I do admire, like, he makes mistakes and then he keeps going. He doesn't let his head drop.
Let's get this right. It's not a pylon. We're on this program to say, what we see. You can only say what you see. And what are we supposed to say? No, he had a great game. You can't do that. It's not piling on. It's just telling the truth, and hopefully, the club will get it right. They'll get the right people on board in the right positions, and we can go through the rest of the season feeling a little bit more confident. But you ask any Forest fan at the moment, I would think the confidence is not particularly good in any of the goalkeepers, and that's just the truth.
Yeah. Let's talk about the central defenders, Temps. I thought Murillo, I thought he had his best game for us in terms of what you want him to do, first and foremost, in terms of defending. That was a big plus point. If we get someone alongside him with a bit more experience, and I feel more confident. Not that Omobamidele's done badly at all. I think he's done well, but 2 21-year-olds together is a bit unnerving. Is that something you feel we can build on defensively when we get Niakate and Bolly back?
Yeah, well, that's the plan, isn't it? Murillo's going to be in the Forest side for as long as we're able to keep hold of him. He's that good. His ceiling's that high, and he has some unique abilities, particularly in turning defence into attack through progressive runs or that ping of a left peg, which we've seen so many times already. He's inked in. I think he's probably the first, if not one of the first names on the team sheet. Needs experience alongside him. You've called it there, and it's Bolly or Niakate at this moment in time. There's going to be a lot of activity in the next couple of days. And I think what remains to be seen is how many we're able to ship out. Because, Bolly and Niakate do have failings as well. But I just feel so much more confident when we've got that experience in the side. Willy Bolly, rearguard action, the best of Niakate with a covering pace. That's the kind of partner that Murillo needs with him in centre defence. Omobamidele's surprised me. He looks like a potential Premier League player for sure, but I think he's going to have to ease back into a backup role when those boys get back from AFCON, because Murillo's here to stay until the money comes in for him, which feels inevitable at some stage.
Temps, do you think he'd be better in a 3 at the back, Murillo, that gives him a license to do what he does particularly well, and bring the ball out and make things happen?
I think, yeah, Gary, he would be better in a 3, but what that kills is the chance to play 2 wingers. And I think Nuno's dream ticket is a solid back 4, centre halves match 2 for 2 with whoever's coming at them, be it 2 strikers or a 9 and a 10. And that allows him to then pick Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, or potentially Reyna, who's going to be announced at some point today, and keep Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10. I just think with the back 5, you pick someone like a Nico or a Toffolo at left wing back, or Reyna. It just kills the chance to put 2 out-and-out wingers on there as well. And I think if we are building this team around Morgan Gibbs-White, he needs 2 minders, 2 runners, Taiwo up top, and a solid back 4 that he can trust.
Yeah, you could play 3 at the back and wingers, but then you couldn't play Gibbs-White, really, because you need him as a 10. And then
I don't think he was at his best, by the way.
You don't think what?
I don't think Gibbs-White was at his best last night either.
Oh, I thought he was good. I thought he just didn't get enough ball. That was the problem. I think we had 19% possession again. It's tough for Gibbs-White when he's got nothing to hit, because, like you said, Gary, like Chris Wood's so deep and
there was no out
ball.
No, there's no. You missed the pace of Brennan. Excuse me. You missed the pace of Elanga. That's the problem. There always was an outlet with pace when we were playing like that before, when we were a little bit deeper, and we used to hit teams. I mean, when we beat Arsenal last season 1-0, that's where the goal came from. That pace from deep, and we got the winner and won 1-0. First half, we didn't have that.
Gary, I'll just compound my point though, because there's a couple of times where Gibbs-White's on the break, he's dribbling, he's broke through the initial press or the first marker, no option right, no option left, and Chris Wood desperate to get up with him. So I think that probably illustrates the challenge that Gibbs-White has as our most progressive player. When he receives the ball centre mid, he needs options. And if we're camping as we found ourselves in the first half yesterday, then yeah, it doesn't play to his strengths, because he beats his man. His next move is to play this progressive pass, and there was just no option for him. So yeah, frustrating first half for Morgan yesterday.
But then going back to starting a Wonyi and starting Elanga, I think that's got to be the case now, because when those 2 are in the side, we know how dangerous they can be and how oppositions don't like those 2, being involved in that final third, because, that's when, Morgan comes into it as well. He can do his stuff as well. He can pick those runs out, and he can do that, and he can get involved himself in that final third. And that's what I'm saying about last night. He wasn't able to do the stuff he wanted to do, maybe. He's having to do too much stuff in the middle there with no reward at the end of it.
Good to have 200 plus people with us. Like I say, we were here last night, so good to be joined by so many. Here is a quick advert for the Trent Nav, and then I'll bring Greg in, but this is a flavour of what you can get. Great for the support of the Nav as ever. Do get down there if you can on match days or in the week. There's always good offers on food every evening.
Greg's there every single night. Fish and chips, jug of Madry. Let's go.
Or curry or pie.
Yeah, and look at the health fanatic. We got him this morning munching on a banana with a. Yeah, there we go. With a he's got a yogurt there somewhere as well.
No free ads.
It's interesting, Greg, that Nuno picked Williams and Dominguez essentially as two out of position wide players. Although Nico had done well at Bristol City, it doesn't really I don't know. Is that discouraging for Callum Hudson-Odoi to be left on the bench and he's got two, square pegs in round holes in front of him?
Yeah, and Hudson, do you know when Hudson-Odoi did come on, it timed in with us realising we've got to get a bit of the ball and try attacking. So I thought Hudson-Odoi looked sharp when he came on. But yeah, Nico's just becoming he's becoming more of a winger than a defender, isn't he? You think naturally he's eventually just going to end up on the right wing for some team somewhere. I'm almost certain of it. He just seems like his attacking threat really does outweigh his defensive responsibilities at the minute. But, when you're talking 19% possession, the conversation Temps and Garry were having, I think that the problem with it is when the attacking players like Gibbs White have the ball, they've got such little time and such, little opportunities. They've got to do something quick, and when they don't, then it's all eyes. And Turner and Montiel, who we've obviously rightfully mentioned, when a team's attacking you with 70% possession, it's just going to be wave after wave after wave. And I think that's on Nuno, isn't it? That's something that has to change. We need, no matter who we're playing, we've got to have a little bit more of the ball, especially with players like Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi, when he comes on, loves having the ball. We've just got to get a bit more of it and be a bit braver, as Temp said at the very start of the show. I think that's the major frustration for me, that we've changed the manager, we've changed everything. We haven't changed our stats at all. We've done exactly the same.
I think, you've got to go back. You've got to play to your strengths, and our strengths, we know what they are. And I've got to go back to the Luton game last night. It's not just that one. The way they play to their strengths. They've got their belief in what they do. Their game plan suits their players, and we've got a game plan to suit a 1 year and people like that. We can take games to people, but we just choose not to. With that defensive block, it's showing too much respect at times to oppositions. I've watched Sheffield United as well, and you watch the way they play. Yeah, they're at the bottom. They tend to go for it in the way they want to go for it. So I think we've got to be a little bit braver, maybe, in the way we go about it, and things could change without a doubt. Obviously, the Africa Cup of Nations not helped, and the injuries have not helped either. But then play your strongest side and just go for it. Be brave.
I did like what you said about the potentially doing the back five as well with Murillo, because he's just, when he does get the ball and his little pings and stuff, he's incredible. He's like you say, we're not going to have him for long. And my mate Steve was even saying he could be a midfielder. The way he plays like a defensive midfielder is fantastic, and it's frightening seeing someone of his size coming towards you, attacking you. I just think utilising a player like that a bit more as well. And I suppose, like with Nuno, he's just got to learn about this squad more, and the Bristol City game hopefully will help him, and new players in against Bournemouth, that's going to help again, but it's unsettling the team. But yeah, just we're starting to see small glints of positivity in certain players that we've got to use more, and it's your Murillos and Gibbs White getting the ball, and like Hudson-Odoi when he came on. They are the things that you've got to look at on a positive side, I suppose, even a weak performance like last night.
We'll talk more about Bournemouth later in the week, Temps, but I'm not sure, but you would hope that we play a more attacking game. Potentially Elanga starts. We get Niakate back. Taiwo might start. Hudson-Odoi could start. We'll talk about Gio Reyna in a bit. Surely we'll be more attacking in other games, won't we?
Yeah, trying to get into Nuno's side, I think that's probably the reason why we did change the method against Arsenal, in that we didn't have the outlet, we didn't have the width. He didn't back Hudson-Odoi for whatever reason, who doesn't have top end pace. And to Gary's point, he decided that Elanga wasn't quite ready for the start. But I think in the games that we've won, that stretching pace has been really important. Has been something that the Arsenal defence would have to be mindful of. So look at Ben White last night. He's playing as an extremely advanced fullback, probably 30 yards further up the field than he would have to be if he was pinned by a winger. We chose not to keep Chris Wood up on halfway. He was coming back to help out, so just couldn't find a way out. But I think if we go into that game with Elanga in a position where he can be picked from the off, with Taiwo in a position where he can be picked from the off, we do try to have more ball. We do try to build through the phases, and we do rely a little bit less on the counter. But without that stretching pace out wide, we went into that defensive mindset and tried to keep the clean sheet, which, I was going to say almost worked. It didn't, did it? We fell apart quite dramatically. But there was a feeling at half time that we had just about enough resilience. But it's not the football we enjoy watching. It certainly hasn't paid dividends on the road, has it? In recent months, and I think Nuno's default will be get back to taking games to the opposition, irrespective of their level, once Taiwo and Elanga are in a position to start.
What did you just elaborate? Go on, Gary. Sorry.
Resilience. It's all right, but a team like Arsenal, with the gifted players they have in there, yes, they didn't score in the first half. They had a lot of possession. But like I say, they didn't have a real out-and-out striker. I think if they had done, we might have been under a little bit more pressure. It's the team with that many quality players who are right at the top of the division are always going to create chance after chance because they have that quality. So, your resilience there then goes. You're 2-0 down. Then you bring your key players that you think are going to get you something out of the game, and it's too late. Bring 1-0. But it's you want to give yourself that opportunity to win a game, and I think Nuno would probably get more praise if he started positive, and you lose a game. I think the fact that you talk about the atmosphere in the ground, maybe because of that first half, and it was negative. That's why it felt a bit flat. But at least if you've got Taiwo in there and Elanga, yeah, they might get injured. They might have got injured after 2 minutes coming on. That's the thing as well. People say, well, if you start them, they might get injured. But they could pull a muscle after 2-3 minutes of just coming on as a substitute. So that logic doesn't even come into it again. Just start them. And if they are shattered, tell the coach, I want to come off. My legs are a bit dodgy. But, I would always go positive rather than negative first, especially at home.
Taiwo was interesting, wasn't he, Gary? Because he looked really rusty, but he's bullied I think a world-class defender in Saliba, and he's had a chance at the end. It just shows what he's about, doesn't it? Even if he didn't look fit, really.
But that's it. My point about him looking rusty, if you start a game, that rust soon goes because you start in with everybody else. You're all on the same page at the start of a game. You've had your warm-up and then you start. But if you come on as sub, you're expected to do something, especially as a striker, and you're right off the pace. You have to get the pace very quickly. And, your first touch as a striker might be a little bit dubious. But, as soon as he got into the game, he looked a threat again. And, I wanted to see him look a threat from the start because I think we could have beaten them if he just started the game.
Thank you to Warren for the £2 donation. Very kind of you and unexpected. So appreciate that, Warren, and the message. Very good. You're always glass half full, Greg. So are you still glass half full? Yeah, like Luton have done really well. We've been pretty comfortably beaten, but on the other side, we've got players coming back from injury, players coming back from AFCON. How are you feeling about the state of play at present with this FFP thing hanging over our heads?
I was excited last month. The new manager bounce clearly kicked in, didn't it? But we're back down to reality now, and not a lot's changed. When you change the setup, you expect something different, and it hasn't, has it? So, yeah, AFCON's a huge miss. Getting those players back is going to be massive. Getting Reyna in, who's a fantastic young talent who could really do something for us. That's a brilliant move. And then we will get a keeper. We know what we're like in the transfer market. If the owner does decide he wants something, he'll always get it. So I'm so confident we're going to get the keeper in. And then we've got a good run of games. We've got a run of games, especially away from home, that we can really pick up some points. And that's something that's not happened at all last season, and not really much this season. But with Nuno in charge, hopefully that's something he can change, the away form, and it starts on Sunday, doesn't it? That's a huge opportunity. New players in, you know, a belief that we can do things away from home, which we didn't really have last season. Get a result there, and the whole outset changes. Everything changes if we get a win at Bournemouth, which we should have done in previous years. You know, they are there for the taking, just like Brentford were, really, but without the show that they put on for the player. So, yeah, it's just, you're only as good as your last game, aren't you? And hopefully the next game will be a hell of a lot better.
What about you, Temps? Like, we, you know, there are positives, there are, you know, red flags as well. Someone, was it Leah, made a good point in the comments about the wave of positivity. We didn't really ride it. I guess it's that because of FA Cup replays, FFP charges, lack of time between Premier League games. Where are you at?
No, it's because of injuries to key players. I think if we come through Man U, Newcastle, and we're able to continue with that side, or even add Taiwo to it, but keep Elanga on the pitch, then we are in a different frame of mind. We start the Arsenal game in a different frame of mind. The result could have been different. We've had cup games where we've had to pick pretty much a first string side. We haven't had the opportunity or the luxury to rest players, and that has impacted on preparation for Premier League games. So big game on Sunday. I think you'll see a far more attacking output from Forest, backing us to get a result. And yeah, do remember that. Like, this is not doom and gloom. We beat Man United and Newcastle. We saw the potential of this side. We saw how some of the understudies can perform when they need to. But I feel so much more buoyed going forwards if Morgan Gibbs-White, Taiwo Awoniyi, and Anthony Elanga start games, and that's going to happen very soon, if not this Sunday. The Taiwo touch, by the way, there's a bit of class there. It looks a bit clumsy until you watch it back 2 or 3 times, but he's very good at creating space for his upper body, just having that technical ability with his feet to bring that down on the turn, and he's poked the finish past the keeper. There was quite a lot to do there. It wasn't a great ball in, was it? It was a header across, if I recall. He had a lot to do. Back to goal, great first touch, nice finish. He does have an ability, a knack to score goals. We debated him for a long time, didn't we? It took us a while to work out if he was a player or not. But I can firmly say that he is, and his goals will have a big impact between now and the end of the season. Looks a real handful.
Yeah, it's definitely goals in the team. Like, Chris Wood's done so well. He's got like 9 goals this season from so few starts, and his movement's been exceptional, and he looks fit and sharp. So if we have him coming off the bench or starting at Bournemouth, whatever, I'm really, really happy with that. I think that we can definitely.
There was a point last night with Chris Wood where it was in the first half, and he went on the attack, had a good opportunity. By the time I looked up again, he was at right back. He'd ran all the way back and was defending right, like past most of our defenders. And I thought, you know, he came here probably thinking this was his retirement tour, and, you know, just coming off the bench. And what he's had to do for us since Taiwo's been injured has just been fantastic. And I think we were all quick to slate him and say he's no good and this, that, the other. But I think he's been superb, and he's got us through, you know, a few games that could be critical, especially the goals he's scored.
Without a doubt, brilliantly. I mean, the quality of the goals he scored has been impressive. But I think watching, I said I felt really sorry for him because he was being dragged so deep. And, you know, as a striker, you don't want to be coming that deep. And for corners against, why don't we just leave one player up so they have to have 2 players in charge of that one player instead of everybody back? And, you know, it makes teams think, oh, crikey, they're leaving somebody up here. We've got to get, you know, 2 or 3 back. You know, puts the cat among the pigeons a little bit. But it's just so easy. You've got everybody back, and then you get the ball, and what happens? There's nothing on. Just keep. No, I'm not saying Chris Wood, you know, bring him back because he's good in the air, but somebody else, you know, just any figure up there, so they have to entertain that one figure instead of everything being okay. If it's cleared, the people in the yellow shirts last night just picked it up, came forward, you know, nice and easily, under no pressure. You know, it makes sense to just leave somebody up there just to, you know, to be accommodated by the opposition.
Is it a counter-attacking thing? If we can rush out, I don't know why. I agree. You know, it's better to leave someone up. I don't know if you want to exploit the space that's vacated. I don't know, with pace. Let's talk transfers last 10 minutes or so. Gio Reyna is going to join by the look of it, or loan with a view to permanent move for 15 to 20 million. George Mendes transfer, but I see people tweeting saying that Nuno wanted him from the start, so that's all good on that front. Scott McKenna's gone. Greg, there's no one who looks like you in the squad anymore. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, he never did. He was a brilliant workhorse for us in the Championship promotion season, wasn't he? He was superb. Didn't quite make the cut in the Prem, but the games he did play, were critical last season. We've moved on clearly, and good on him for wanting to get game time rather than just sitting on a Premier League bench for the rest of the season, because his minutes weren't really going to be there, were they? Other than 2 or 3 injuries in that position. And it's an exciting league. It's an exciting team for him as well. Fantastic atmosphere out there. So I think he'll have a great time, and it could be exactly what he needs to kickstart his top flight career again. So good on him for making the move. I think too many players do decide to just sit on the contracts and, be happy where they are. But it takes a lot, especially for a British player, to go to another country and give it a go. So, yeah, good on him. Loads of respect for that.
Jonathan Panzo's gone to Standard Liège, and I guess we probably won't see him in a Forest shirt in the first team. Joe Worrell, Gary, looks like he could well go. A few people saying he looked very, like he was saying his goodbyes last night on the pitch afterwards. It kind of feels to me like it might be just time for him to go and get some football somewhere. Do you think, if he's just not going to play here?
I think he's that honest a pro that, that's what he'll do. I mean, he clearly doesn't like being on the bench. I hated, the very few times I was on a bench. It's not pleasant. You want to play. You want to be out there. And, he's an honest character as well. The previous regime, under Steve and everybody, were praising him highly. Always first in, always last away for training. His attitude's very good. So somebody will get, a very good player. But, it's about moving forward, unfortunately. And, players do get left behind. We see players who got us from the Championship into the Premier League, then they got rid of because the Premier League is, a massive step up. It's the nature of football. We all know that, and you just have to move on and get on with it. But he'll go somewhere, and I think he'll do well wherever he goes, without a doubt, because he's an honest pro.
As Liam says, do us a favour, hit the like button if you haven't already. That would be great. Oral Mangala attempts as well. Probably the other main departure. It looks like it could well happen. 25 to 30 million. We discussed it a bit last night, but I'd kind of be on board. If it'd be a shame to lose him, but if it funds a couple of decent transfers, I kind of reluctantly accept it. What about you?
Exactly that. It's good money, isn't it? And it's a profit on a deal, but we're not selling him because of what he's contributed. I think he's been excellent. Probably the most comfortable player on the ball in any situation. Give him in a cul-de-sac and he'll come out and make something of it. I think he's been very consistent. He's popped up with a couple of important goals at various points, but that's not the facet of his game, is that he just knits everything together. Give him the ball in any situation, he'll retain it and keep it. And that's something that I'm sure Gary will agree you look for in any football team. That fella that you're just always going to back to continue to progress the attack. No lack of effort, great attitude, and he's done his bit for Forest. But yeah, that's the business side of it, isn't it? We're going to have to sell a player for big cash in most windows. I think back end of last season, we probably thought Danilo was the cash cow. Then there was the Taiwo to Chelsea whisper. Now Murillo, as we unfortunately talk about a little bit more than we perhaps should, will start to command attention from elsewhere. So yeah, reluctantly accepting that, but very grateful for what Mangala's done for the club.
You're missing Gibbs White out here. There's talk of him going for 50 million. He's the
Where's
one.
The profit though?
That's not enough. That's nowhere
Where's the
near
profit in
enough.
that?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go at some point. I really wouldn't.
Do you know No, you need to double what we paid for him to even have the conversation, I think, with someone like Gibbs White and his how far he's got in his career and how long he's got to go. But with Mangala, we were having the conversation last night and it's a tough business, and we know we've got to balance these books one way or another. But if we were linked with Mangala now, would you want to pay 30 million for him? And I think that's the thing. I think 30 million is a lot of money for a player in his position. And personally, I wouldn't want to spend 30 million pounds on him. So if we can get it with a squad being bigger and still having a little bit of time in the transfer window, I think we have to sell to look to how we get in the future, or else we end up with points deductions again.
Yeah. If it funds a goalkeeper, if that's what it comes to, then fair enough. And I know we've said this a lot, but we've got Dominguez who can play in there, Sangare, Yates, obviously. Kouyate's coming back and he can do a job for 6 more months, you would imagine. So there are options there. It's the one area that you could deal with it. It's just a shame that you're selling a good piece of recruitment to cover bad recruitment, but that's football, I guess. It happens at every club.
Now is staying up. Pure and simple. Do anything you possibly can to stay in the Premier League this season. And then Nuno in the summer, hopefully, will be given carte blanche to change things around as he sees fit. But all that's got to be done now, we don't want to get sucked in down in that bottom three because, it could be a possibility, because Luton are playing so well. Sheffield United are picking points up. Everton have just gone on a little bit of a slump at the moment. Palace were getting sucked into it, but they got a good win. So we've got to be very careful and very mindful that is the key thing that we have to do as a football club, is stay in the Premier League this season.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we come out of January in a strong place, and I think we certainly can do. It's just
it's a points deduction as well. That's the worry.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Whether it'll happen this season, they say it will. Everton are in the process of appealing, so there's still many things can happen, and we've just got to watch it very closely.
That covers all the bases for today that I wanted to get to. Good to have 300 people with us on the back of a defeat. Anything to add, Greg, before we depart?
Is this an AOB thing or is this a Forest thing? No, just on Forest, I think we've all just got to realise the situation we're in, aren't we? I just felt I can't speak for everyone, but I walked in that ground just thinking, it's Forest tonight, and we haven't been at home for like a month other than the cup, and I don't know, I feel like we might just need a rocket up us in one way or another, and whether that's a fancy new shiny sign-in or something else, we've got to figure something out.
And any AOB in general?
Yes. Stand Against M&D, my friend Sam's charity. They're doing the 50-50 campaign at the minute. And a good mate of mine, Rich Andrew, and I think his partner, there's a load of them walking from Newark to Forest, setting off at 8:30 a.m. for the Newcastle game on the 10th. So it's over 20 miles. They've been doing some training. I think they're out on a walk today, getting ready for it. I'll tweet the link after this, and if you can support them, or I'm sure even if you want to keep them company for the walk from Newark to the City Ground, they'd appreciate that. So just supporting Sam's charity, really, because he's an incredible person. So I'll just send some tweets after this with all the info.
Good stuff. Hang on, I pressed the wrong button there. Gary, anything from you before we go?
No, just going back to, Forest. Let's not, we lose when we're negative. Let's just be positive from the start. Let's believe in what we've got, because we beat Manchester United. We beat Newcastle, and deservedly so. When we're positive, we can beat people. When we're negative, you always leave yourself open to the better teams, getting those opportunities to beat you, and you're making mistakes because of the pressure that's put upon you. We've got the players in there when all fit to go and take games to anybody. We've done it before and we can do it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Bournemouth, certainly, see what we can do for them. Oh, hang on.
Fabrizio's. Go on.
Yeah. Forest are closing in on a deal to sign Portuguese talent Rodrigo Ribeiro as a striker, loan deal with an option to buy. Sporting almost agreed.
Just quickly, remember how badly we defended against Bournemouth at home. The 3 goals that we conceded were shocking. We've got to defend better than that, because when we go to Bournemouth, they'll be saying, right, let's just get the ball in the box, because, look at how Nottingham Forest defended against, when we played them before. So you've got to do better in that respect.
Oh yeah, definitely. Temps, anything from you while I quickly research Rodrigo Ribeiro?
Yeah, quick charity shout. I had a nice message from Kevin Somerville, who wanted me to mention the charity firewalk at the Nav, Greg and Matt's favourite pub, this Friday. It's for Zephyrs, which is a brilliant cause. You can find out more at zephyrsnottingham.org.uk. Second thing, just thanks to everybody in the iTunes reviews. It's mistaken me for an ex-pro. It's obviously something that I really enjoy and the lads really hate. So, yeah, keep it coming. And hopefully now I can move on from all that Sam Surridge's dad stuff, which I also enjoyed, but was slightly more offensive.
You could have muted at that point, Matt. Just as he started, you could have hit it.
Rodrigo Ribeiro is 18 years old, Portuguese youth international. Been on the bench in the Europa League. Don't think he got on. And I don't think he's played. No, I don't think he's played first team football. So looks like he's one for the future, certainly. He looks like he plays in their youth team this season. So I'll do some more research on him. But go on, Gary.
Would it be fair to say it might be a classic Mendes link?
I think it might be an 18-year-old Portuguese centre forward. Yeah. I mean, he might be a big starter. So, yeah, we'll do some more on that tomorrow.
The boy we had in the centre of midfield who was supposed to be the next big thing, and where is he now?
Olympiacos.
One will work. One will work.
Yeah. It looks like he's played 6 first-team games. I'm doing this on the fly. So, yes, right. Talking off deadline day, then we'll be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. with perhaps a bit of a revolving cast. I don't know, but we'll certainly take in all the drama that ensues. So join us for that if you can. Good to have everyone with us today. Gary, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure.
As always. Greg, thank you.
Cheers, Matt. Cheers, everyone.
Temps, thank you very much.
Cheers, fellas. We're going to close the curtains now.
I thought it was one of those fake screens, like when you have a fake background.
Blue screen.
Yeah.
Get back to your seaweed drink.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it, Temps?
Blueberry, goji berry, and blackcurrant.
He's so West Bridgeford, isn't he?
Very true. Right, we'll leave it there. We'll be back tomorrow evening. Do join us if you can, and then we'll be back on Friday as well. Prutz is joining us then, and then Bournemouth on Sunday. So it's all happening as ever because it's Forest. So good to have your company today. Have a good day, everyone, and we shall see you soon.